On a dark and stormy night, a creepy castle is under attack. A girl screams in pain while a frightening masked knight glares at her group, slowly swinging his sword in a threatening way. It appears that being is nearly invincible and has knocked down everyone except a few, who feel underqualified to overcome him. Out of the blue, the trio of 3 sassy women appears, claiming to be the Heavenly Kings, and introduces the invincible knight as the weakest of them all. The opposing group screams in sheer disbelief. Later, inside the Demon King's castle, the knight removes his mask, revealing the handsome face of Ralph, the Dark Knight. He reprimands the other 3 Heavenly Kings for creating such a melodrama. One of them, Freya, who specializes in magic, hypes up their dangerous opponents, describing them as fighters wielding deadly weapons, such as double-edged axes. Meanwhile, the demonic beast emperor, Lilila, lazily pets the giant lion resting in her lap and suggests a different idea, showing love and kindness to those who are different from them. The frozen witch, Lushika, doesn't understand why he wants to provoke a fight, especially since they already proved their strength against the troublemakers. Ralph freaks out in sheer frustration, as those lazybones refuse to budge an inch. In reality, those 4 have been assigned to protect the castle on the demonic continent, but in this regard, only Ralph acts responsibly. Not only are those 3 lasses slackers, but they are also dreadfully manipulative since they always put him on the front when attacked, and then declare him the weakest of them all, so that only he gets to face more challengers. Not giving up, he tries to encourage them to engage in battles, but his suggestion only ignites their wrath as they scream at him in unison, nearly blowing him away. In no time, the poor lad is kicked out of the room, but he grits his teeth in sheer determination to bring a change since he feels too overburdened carrying even their responsibilities. Teamwork clearly means, you do everything while we yell. He is certain that the ladies are gifted and need a bit of a pushover to be valuable members of the team. As he gazes towards the door, he hears the loud wails coming from behind and postpones the coaxing till the next day. The next day, at noon, he hits Freya's room first, where the sassy lass is still slumbering. She doesn't seem very pleased to see him, but Ralph forces himself to keep calm, even though he is disgusted by her munching without brushing her teeth. A bout of nervousness strikes him since he doesn't know how to bring up the issue, but before he can say anything, Freya excitedly jumps off her bed to show him something, because nothing says important mission like bad breath and surprises. In no time, she proudly flashes an outrageous painting in front of him and calls it an explosion of her creative passion. Turns out that the lovely lass has quite a flair for speedily changing her passions and audaciously declares herself talented. Suddenly, something strikes him, and he exuberantly highlights how she is talented to do anything. A baffled Freya stares at him blankly, and grabbing the opportunity, he quickly pushes her towards the training. As a result, her face convulses horrifically, followed by a series of tantrums that she throws while jumping wildly on the bed. Ah yes, the classic reaction to responsibility, absolute chaos. She acts so cringingly that for a moment, he bashfully hides his face at her immature behavior. Still, he cannot help but wonder why she is occupying such a prestigious position when she has no intention of fighting. But Freya honestly reveals her affinity for the luxurious lifestyle that can only be enjoyed as a heavenly king. She bashfully grabs him by his shoulder and highlights the importance of money for a peaceful life. But she doesn't realize that Ralph is the only one maintaining the serenity enjoyed by the others. Hard work is important, as long as someone else is doing it. After failing miserably on her side, Ralph sighs heavily, thinking about the hassle he is going through. However, he decides to be prepared before hitting his next target, Lushika. Lushika welcomes him warmly and offers him some tea. As he settles down expecting a warm cup, he is completely shocked to see a bowl of shaved ice being served to him. It appears that the lady is quite obsessed with ice and uses different creative ideas to present it. Tea? No. Ice in a bowl. Close enough, apparently. Even this time, she insists she has prepared an exotic matcha-flavored snow bowl for him, and he feels that it is useless to argue with her since he is here for another purpose. Quite coolly, she begins to munch on the delicious ice, much to his frustration. Nevertheless, he tries to persuade her towards battle training. In the end, he requests her cooperation in this regard. Lushika pulls out that same horrible face at his request. He tries to show her the dark side of peace being compromised if something happens to him, because clearly ice-based denial solves everything. But in turn, Lushika shows full confidence in his strength and capabilities and encourages her to be more determined. An irritable Ralph feels like a teacher being lectured by a fresher, so he literally glares at her. Lushika is taken aback by his sudden annoyance, so he tries to calm himself down to avoid making matters worse. Next, he tries to show her a broader perspective of the world, full of enemies who can suddenly attack them, so that she can feel threatened and is compelled to join his training. But to his anguish, she begins to freeze, and in no time, she is buried inside a block of ice, smiling serenely from within. When in doubt, freeze yourself and ignore reality. This is her trick to avoid anxiety. A disappointed Ralph comes out of her room, having failed a second time, and now Lilia, the third heavenly king, is his only chance. Upon knocking, his blood drains out as Lilia's treacherous-looking lion pops up, roaring fiercely. Thankfully, the beauty appears beside the beast, welcoming him heartily. As he settles down, he is passionately shown affection by that gigantic beast, sickeningly called Pudding. A terrifying lion named Pudding, truly intimidating. Lilia presents him with a muffler that she has especially knitted for him, displaying her speciality in that art. She even intends to make one for others as well. Her kindness makes him guilty for trying to forcibly push her towards violence, but he tramples those thoughts and presents a dramatic picture of his woes and sleepless nights. He artfully manifests how their lives are more at stake, making her instantly offer help. Striking the iron when hot, he immediately pushes her towards training for a much-needed break he requires. But this time, the signature horrific expression is given by none other than the melodramatic Pudding. But this time, Ralph loses his cool, lashing out at the lion for not living up to its beastly ways and acting like a wimp. A frenzied Lilia tries to defend her beloved pet, but Ralph targets her instead, challenging her to protect Pudding and others. As cool as a cucumber, she flatly refuses on his face. A flabbergasted Ralph is not ready for such a speedy response and advises her to take it slow. Rejected instantly, efficiency at its finest. Finally, she acknowledges his concern and excitedly offers to make a pillow for him. Poor Ralph is hit by a lightning bolt as she affectionately blames his poor bedding for his enhanced worries and even offers to knit a sweater for him. To Lilia's alarm, Ralph actually explodes in sheer rage as the same signature horrific expression returns on his face. In a fit of anger, he actually bangs his head on the ground. A panic-stricken Lilia tries to calm him down, but all he mentions is his independence plan going into the pits, and so does his dream. With that, he passes out. The three heavenly kings are worried about Ralph after he suddenly disappeared. Lushika and Freya are especially concerned when they hear about his dramatic outburst in Lilia's room. They recall how he kept trying to push them into combat training, something none of them actually wants to do. Lilia points out that Ralph has been looking very stressed lately, and Lushika agrees. Instead of training, they come up with a different plan. They decide to help him relax. Together, they plan to give him a special spa treatment, including massages and lots of pampering, hoping it will calm him down and make him forget all about the idea of combat training. However, his absence still remains a mystery, because nothing solves responsibility like a spa day you didn't ask for. Elsewhere, in the middle of the snow-covered mountains, Ralph stretches himself in delight, feeling refreshed by the mountain breeze and the amazing weather. He is greeted by a strange old man on his way, and it appears that Ralph is in a travel mode. Ever since his father brought him to the human world, Ralph has been obsessed with traveling. He has studied maps to discover every nook and corner of the world. Despite living in a demon continent, he has always been curious about what lies beyond that. Also, his father used to mention a certain heaven on earth known for entertainment and delicious food. Now Ralph is not certain whether he made up the whole thing, but deep down, he really desires to see that place. That's why he has started to strengthen his body for a world tour. With the passing of time, he achieved his goals and became one of the 4 heavenly kings, thinking that he would find time to fulfill his desire by using teleportation. However, all his dreams are shattered by those lazy and selfish girls. As he gradually heads towards a town, he recalls how he never even gets time to rest, as the alarm on his bracelet is always ringing for emergencies. Finally, Ralph reaches the entrance of Marimar Village, a scantily populated dwelling, and is famous for its spicy meat pies. Ralph passes through the crowded marketplace and enjoys a random street performance. He happily feeds the cattle some carrots and is brightened to see cheerfulness prevailing in the surroundings. Ralph is so impressed by that small wonder that he deeply wishes a place like that existed in his homeland as well. Peace and happiness, clearly a rare luxury in his life. Out of the blue, a delicious lingering smell strikes his nostrils, and something dawns on him. He quickly frenzies through the mob, nearly knocking out everyone in his way, and reaches a small shop. A young woman welcomes him heartily, placing hot and fresh meat pies in the racks. Ralph's mouth begins to water at such a treat. He imagines the savory, crispy flavors in his mind, and his appetite is instantly on fire. The salesgirl smiles as his stomach growls like a beast. The girl readily offers him one from her freshly baked batch. Tempted, he enthusiastically asks for a slice, and when it comes in front of him neatly in a box, he completely spaces out in its crisp, spicy aroma and heavy, skillfully baked touch. He is about to dig his teeth into it when suddenly his alarm bracelet buzzes blaringly, rudely interrupting the intimate moment. He is forced to take the call, and instantly, he hears the tumultuous trio's panicked voice alerting him about the upcoming human attacks. Although he is greatly irritated, he dashes away, reaches his destination, and knocks out all the enemies within a split second. The useless trio stands behind him, laughing with mockery at the slain enemies. Freya scornfully calls them fools for attacking them repeatedly, despite being no match for them. The others also shower derogatory comments on them, highlighting their superiority. They contribute absolutely nothing, but confidence is sky high. In an outrageous attempt, Ralph is about to be pompously declared as the weakest of them all when he suddenly turns around, looking as scary as a demon, glaring at them. Useless to say, the trio gets brutally lashed out at by him. Later, Ralph is greatly disappointed because all that chaos has made his meat pie slice stone cold. The next day, Ralph's mind is still stuck on that delicacy, which despite losing heat was mouth-watering. Unexpectedly, Freya appears from nowhere and strangely asks for his companionship for the day. When Ralph expresses curiosity, she just drags him along with her. Soon, she brings him to a gallery where she has displayed various canvases showcasing bizarre paintings. Even Ralph is shocked to see them, taking them as lucky charms in the first place. Freya feels insulted and snaps at him for being a half-wit. She introduces the place as her very own art museum, but Ralph doesn't understand her POV since the place won't get any visitors, unlike any conventional exhibition. She quietly mumbles something under her breath. When Ralph asks her to repeat it, she loudly explains that the place was specially prepared just for him. He is shocked to learn that she created it to make up for always causing trouble and to help him relax. Ralph feels a surge of frustration and wants to remind her of her real duty as a heavenly king, but he holds himself back because he doesn't want to hurt her feelings. Even so, he cannot understand why she thinks this is a good way to deal with his exhaustion. He is completely stunned when she asks him to admire her work as art. No matter how meaningful or intellectual her paintings are supposed to be, he simply cannot understand them. Nevertheless, he is compelled to get stuck between those odd talismans. Ralph is trying to digest the whole thing when she brings up an aristocratic violin, claiming it to be her recent fling. She masterfully places the violin between her head and shoulder, closes her eyes, and delicately strikes its chords with the bow. Art, confusion, and now music. This keeps getting better. For some bizarre reason, a soothing sense prevails within him, and his nerves begin to relax. But then his eyes pop open in sheer horror as he spots two creepy eyes emerging suddenly on that violin, staring at him ravenously. He realizes that Freya is unconsciously playing the music of death with that cursed violin, which specializes in causing a slow death to the creatures around it. Quite furiously, he snatches the deathly tool that she randomly found in the treasury. It appears that it was Ralph who had dumped it there in the first place. On a positive note, Freya self-acknowledges her immense talent for music, which nearly kills Ralph. The slinky violin is so impressed with Freya that it offers to travel the world with her, leaving her in a stupor, while Ralph is adamant about dumping it again. The ruckus is thankfully interrupted by a sudden knock, and it appears that Freya has something planned for that day. Even cursed objects have better judgment than this team. In no time, the courtyard is filled with several unusual creatures, and poor Ralph is being pulled and dragged by a disheveled Freya on the veranda above the courtyard. While all the tussling is going on, a bespectacled lady suggests commencing the assembly, and she hopes that Her Excellency, Freya, is all prepared to address those creatures. On getting her approval, the woman yells at the top of her voice to gain everyone's attention. Then she declares Freya's entrance by adding many elaborate and extravagant prefixes and postfixes that are revealed to be flamboyantly added by Freya alone. Her ridiculously long epithet annoys him greatly, but Freya is too euphoric to even listen to him. However, Ralph notices that she enjoys immense popularity among the masses who keep cheering for her. He is irked by her fake demeanor in front of them. The bespectacled lady decides to hand over her battle achievements to everyone, and in a shocking revelation, she has nothing to her credit. The crowd is greatly puzzled when the assembly is abruptly dismissed. All hype, zero results. Truly inspiring. Freya is thoroughly relieved that at least she wasn't compelled to prove anything, but her relief is short-lived as the bespectacled lady requests her to give a power show to the audience. Freya is completely drained of blood when she is asked to show some of her magic, but her quick thinking saves the situation. She suddenly shows concern that her powerful magic might destroy everything around them. The bespectacled woman looks disappointed, so Freya confidently pushes Ralph forward and presents him to the crowd instead. Ralph is so mad at her that he lashes out at her in front of everyone for being unreasonable. He smartly tries to put the ball back in her court by highlighting her diligence and dedication towards anything she tries. He encourages her to pull out at least an average trick. The duo gets into a heated argument with Freya not ready to settle for anything less than excellence, and he keeps on accusing her of not taking her training seriously. Ralph is about to leave when a tearful Freya begs him to comply. Ralph is frozen to his feet, and then even the bespectacled lady announces his stint to the audience. The audience is deeply disappointed because instead of witnessing the magic of her excellence, Freya, they would have to bear the one shown by the weakest of all the heavenly kings. Ralph is super ignited by those outlandish comments, and he instantly pulls out his gigantic magic sword. With full zeal, he generates such magnanimous power that it completely destroys a nearby mountain range. Weakest, they said. That aged well. The bespectacled lady, along with the whole mob, is left in a stupor. Even Ralph is terror-stricken by his sudden burst of impulsiveness and its consequences. Meanwhile, Freya chuckles triumphantly, emphasizing Ralph being the weakest of them all and still possessing such omnipotence. She shamelessly claims to bear 10 times more firepower than he had just shown. The next day, a completely drained Ralph is roaming around thinking about the amends he has to make due to yesterday's power burst, when suddenly Lushika calls out to him from behind. Ralph is completely taken off guard when she cryptically asks him to accompany her for the day. Yes, because things definitely needed to get worse. Ralph grits his teeth in anxiety, wondering about what's coming next, so he refuses flatly on her face. Needless to say, Lushika throws a fit of a tantrum, trying to hide herself in an icy shell. Anxiously, Ralph tries to reason with her about his very busy day ahead, to repair the demolished mountaintop. Lushika believes him since she heard a deafening explosion last night. A smile breaks on her tear-stained face as she offers to help him fix it. A feeling of dread overcomes Ralph as he doubts her intentions, just like Freya duped him earlier. A smart-aleck Ralph artfully diverts her favor towards guarding the castle in his absence. But Frey melancholically goes into her icy shell to show her disapproval. Overwhelmed by her silent protest, he allows her to come along, thinking that 2 hands are better than 1. Lushika's face dazzles with happiness as she promises to give her best shot. Emotional pressure, undefeated once again. She excitedly decides to head first, leaving Ralph behind, who is dreading every upcoming second. And as he reaches his destination, he is in for yet another shocker, as before him stand the majestic snow-blanketed mountains instead of the original ones. Panic-stricken, he guesses that Lushika might be behind that stunt. True to his thought, Lushika proudly admits her deed, thinking that he owes her big time. Problem solved. Completely different problem created. But deep down, a distressed Ralph finds her swift ability a bit intimidating and miserably regrets watching it getting wasted on useless things. Seeing him in blues, Lushika suggests skiing on the snow-covered mountains. When some interest appears on his face, her assistant pops up from nowhere, putting forth all the required equipment for skiing and snowboarding. Ralph is doubtful about the stability of the newly repaired mountain and is concerned about their safety. But Lushika assures him about her solid work of freezing it amply. Being sorted on that, Ralph finally agrees to some snow fun. The duo has the time of their lives with Ralph on his skis while Lushika merrily somersaults on her snowboard. After spending much time on the slippery snow, an exhausted Ralph is in for a much-needed break. In no time, she lays out a neat set of a table and benches made up of ice. But he cannot help expressing his frustration at being served shaved ice even in such chilly weather. The ever-cool Lushika believes ice does wonders for fatigue and exhaustion, but he makes a pass. However, he admits having fun skiing after ages and gazes at the demon castle situated at a distance. He is relieved that so far everything is under control. Yes, frozen desserts in freezing weather. Brilliant logic. Lushika reprimands him for being a worrywart since she has observed him sneaking glances at the castle even while skiing. Ralph chuckles in abashment and heartily expresses his gratitude to her for giving him a breather. He goes on singing hymns about her, making her more enthusiastic to create an even more complex skiing maze-like structure lined with pointy icicles. When a terror-stricken Ralph tries to protest, she expresses confidence in his abilities. Encouragement taken too far, as usual. Unexpectedly, Lushika wobbles out of weakness and falls into his arms. To make matters worse, a killer avalanche suddenly heads towards them, but Ralph swiftly grabs her and saves her in time. He is drained with fear when a frail Lushika fails to release any more powers to stop that upcoming catastrophe. He frantically begins to flee the scene to avoid getting buried alive. In the middle, Lushika tells him to stop, as she was getting nauseous from his lightning fleet speed. Her unnecessary interference ignites his rage, since he was expecting her to be more helpful. His worst nightmare comes true, as the snowy ground beneath him crumbles, and off he goes towards his icy grave. When he finally gains consciousness, He is shocked to see an anxious Lushika hovering over him, all safe and sound. Perfect timing for complaints. Truly helpful. She reveals how she was miraculously saved by her creepy-looking assistant. On a closer look, Ralph is totally buried inside the ground with only his head bobbing on the outside, and still he finds it hard to believe to be alive. The next day, he is all set to fix that jinxed mountain when he sneezes loudly. Lilia spots him and fears that he has caught a cold. Ralph doesn't protest because even he has been feeling a bit under the weather that morning. Instantly, Lilia offers to nurse him back to health and, for that, requests his companionship till that time. At the height of vulnerability, he decides to leave himself completely in her hands. What could possibly go wrong now?
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.